So when did going to a game become a $400 decision?
And are we actually having more fun or just paying more? Let's go ahead and talk about it. Hey, welcome back to the podcast series Buy Your Kids a House. Again, I'm Matt. This is Andrew. And in these segments, we do the Treat Yourself segment where we kind of look at what we can do to still enjoy the luxuries of our life with the money that we earn, but with keep within our budget, not overextending ourselves. And in today's episode, we're going to try to break down the aspect of what it costs to go to sporting events, whether it's at the game, at a local bar, or staying at home, and looking at it without saying we're not anti-sports. We want to do these fun things.
Yeah, and it's more anti-overpaying without thinking. And like he said, whether you are the person that needs to be in that environment at the actual sports arena, and if that cost is worth that and being in that environment in that community, or if being at the bar and just watching the TV, having a drink or two, and being with that community, what best fits within your budget and what you want.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and break that all down and see what you actually are getting for each of these levels of the costs, and see what works out best for you and also for ourselves as well.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Yeah. So first, we're going to kind of look at the aspect of what it is like going to a game. Now, time of recording this and everything, we're actually just after Super Bowl, so what better time than to talk about this and when the biggest game of the year just happened. And while we're talking about all sports in general, it might seem a little more football focused, but also we're going to bring up the idea of going to a baseball game, a soccer game, basketball game, because each one has their different tier levels too and everything. But we're kind of trying to look at the idea of what are you getting for what you're paying for that. Because a lot of times you first just look at the ticket prices. For an NFL game, that's anywhere usually between $150 up to $400 or $500 a ticket for regular tickets. If you want to go club level and everything, that can be anywhere from $400 to $1,500 per ticket. But that's just not the whole cost of going to it. You also still have the cost of parking, food and drinks and everything there, any souvenirs you have in the process of getting there. It really can add up to a several $1,000 experience just to go to one game. And that to me just is an astronomical amount of money for just a one-day event.
Yeah, no, it's crazy expensive, and the prices seem to just keep going up. And then it's really easy to be like, okay, I'll get the ticket, or I'll get the club for the food, the box, or whatever you're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get that credit card bill, you're like, uh-oh. You start getting those alerts of like, this is how much you've spent, and then the realization of maybe not going out to the actual game and going to a bar would have been better. But it really just depends on that experience and like what you get for the value as well. But it creeps up really quick. And like you were saying, the tickets, even for nosebleeds these days, can run you like at least $100, even for way up in the stands.
Yeah, and again, bring up that aspect of even the nosebleeds. I mean, you also have to look at what you're getting for what you're paying. So, if you're paying $150 for the very, very top of a stadium, and you have to bring binoculars just to watch the little ants run around the field, like, how is that really a good experience? A lot of times in order to have like the beginnings of a good experience, you have to be in the lower bowl, possibly even further up in the first couple of rows. I mean, that's where tickets are $400 or $500, beginning, not even with club level. Now, club level does run the perks, so a lot of times they include the food and drinks, and if you eat a lot or drink a lot, maybe that offsets a little bit. But if you're a family of four, just at decent tickets of $400, that's $1,600 just for tickets.
Right.
Now, granted, obviously this falls into the 50, 30, 20. This falls into the 30 part of your budget. Now, you may not look at it as a 1 month sum. If you go to one game a year, you can spread that over the 12 months and pre-plan for that in your budget. But man, that's still, if you're at $2,000, over the course of 12 months and everything, you're still looking at $150, $200 a month of your budget going towards this one day event.
Yeah.
And that to me is a floor level price even of it. Because again, what used to be $20 a park has become $40 and $60 a park. Popcorn there is, $8, $10, beers, $20+.
Yeah.
These things just keep adding up and adding up and adding up. And, especially a lot of times also you start drinking, you start forgetting how much you're spending.
Exactly. That's where the alerts come into play.
Yeah, you get a little message on
like
phone.
transaction. You're like,
abort.
You're like, I need another beer to cope with this.
Yeah. So again, if you're at, already $2,000 just getting in there, and all of a sudden becomes $2,500, $3,000. I mean, you're at $300 a month of your budget just for a one day event. Let alone if you're a diehard fan trying to be a season ticket holder to go to these games. Or, the NFL at least only has, 8-ish home games, depending on if your team plays, has a Europe game or not or whatever, but 8-ish home games a year. maybe a little more manageable in that
Mhm.
sense. But like if you're, basketball or baseball, basketball's 40 plus games a year.
Yeah.
Baseball's 156 games or whatever a year. Like half of those are home games and everything. So
Yeah.
like that's a lot of games you're going to have to go for. And then if they also make the playoffs,
Yeah.
like those add up as
I was
well.
gonna say, then tag on that extra amount then too.
Yeah, because usually if you're a season pass holder, that doesn't include playoffs. It gives you the first right to buy them, but you're still buying them.
Right, you still have to purchase it separately.
Yeah,
But that does actually bring up a good point that I was going to talk about as well, is if you are the type of person that just loves to be in that environment with everyone cheering, and especially home games for your team, like there's nothing quite like being in the environment of 20,000 fans cheering for the same thing and having like all of that energy.
yeah,
But a season pass might be worth it if that's what you want to look into and you want to consistently go to the games. If you're spending the money, that might be the smarter route than
yeah.
just the individual. And then maybe limit yourself to then going to the bar for playoffs or something like that, to where like those extra costs add up. It could definitely help for
Yeah.
sure, like the overall cost instead of just purchasing individual.
No, and there are definitely, as you mentioned, the atmosphere of the
Mhm.
fans there. Trash talking, booing the opponents
Yep.
and everything. Add to that element. If you've never been to the stadium, it doesn't have to be your home team. Like a lot of times, people like to travel around to different stadiums around the world,
Mhm.
or around the nation and everything, and
Right.
at least experience those things. If you got kids and they've never been to a game, you want to take them for the first time. Absolutely,
Yeah.
you get those perks and benefits from it. But man, oh man, you got to make sure that it fits in, because again, it just it's jumped so much in the past 10, 20 years of the cost of
Yeah.
going to this, that I begin to really, really struggle with, is it truly actually worth it? And again, in comparison to going to your sports bar, which we'll dive into in a moment, or just setting up your home theater system like we talked about back in the movie theater
Mhm.
section, having those experiences, I might be just further better along, especially if you aren't able to afford being closer to the game. Because
Right.
even to be in that nosebleed seat, $150, if you're a family of four, that's $600 right there for a
Yeah.
ticket, plus parking and everything else. You're still at probably $800 to $1,000 for the worst experience of being all the way up in the nosebleeds,
Yeah.
and like having to shoo away the birds and push the
Exactly.
airplanes up as they come by and everything.
I was gonna say, with the binoculars, it could be a twofer. You're watching a game and bird watching at the same time. It's
Exactly.
like, oh, that's a new one.
Or you're watching the storms roll in if you're in Florida.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're like, get ready for lightning strike call.
You're like, I see the rain coming.
Yeah, so and also a lot of times, I fully admit, in the upper level of the bowls, a lot of times the seats also get a little more vertical, and
Yeah.
I've been up there, and I am not a fan of heights. And
It is more of a, you stand up and you feel it's more straight down than it should be.
yeah, and you get a little bit of the sway of the stadium
Uh-huh.
and everything. And I know they're built to handle that. Like, especially I'm a UCF fan. The bounce house is called the bounce house for a reason.
Yeah.
But man, when you get into these upper level bowls and you're several hundred feet in the air and it's swaying back and forth a little bit, like I don't like it.
No one told me how to take Dramamine with the game too.
Seriously, yeah, I was like, or worse, you end up drinking more to try to offset it, and then that adds to your bill and everything as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, like that kind of breaks down. I think most of these sports now have just gotten too high of a cost for what you're getting.
Right.
And the experience, and I know they've tried to enhance some in-stadium experiences. The jumbotrons have gotten bigger. They've enhanced, but like I've actually caught myself a lot of times when I'm at these games, especially if I'm at an upper level, I'm watching the jumbotron more than I am the actual field. But if I'm watching the jumbotron,
Why be there watching it on a screen when you could be somewhere else for cheaper watching it
exactly?
on the screen? Yep.
Because again, like I find myself like that's where I can at least still see the players and the jerseys and what they are. And I'm like, well, I'm paying to be here. I should be watching the actual field,
Right.
Not the jumbotron to the side and everything. And so, again, with that, like that kind of to me is one of the big factors of showing that maybe going to the game isn't the value isn't there.
Right. No, I completely agree. Especially like you said, in the past 10 years, it's gone up so much. And nosebleeds used to be like $20 tickets, and now, like you said, you could spend up to like $150 depending on what kind of game it is and who they're playing. The demand in it, and it's getting out of hand.
Yeah, definitely way out of hand on that. And again, like to me, the package that they're offering just hasn't kept on par with the raise of that price. Maybe things will change in the coming years. I hope that a lot of these sporting teams, not just NFL, I'm not just trying to pick on them, but like all the sporting events and games and everything will realize that we have to really elevate the package of what we're offering, because TV sure as heck is, and I think we're going to kind of cover a little bit of that with the sports bar and everything. And also the home theater system, but like they really got to, if they want to keep earning our money from that, like they have to elevate the experience and everything. Otherwise, technology of TV is going to leave them in the dust.
Yeah, no, it really will.
Yeah,
But
so
I think that segues us into the next section.
I think I'm about to say we're going to dive into showing what the difference of a sports bar and also with the home theater system, and again at the end of this we'll kind of bring it all back together, which we feel is our winner.
Yeah.
So let's go from there.
All right. All right, so now we're going to talk about watching it at a sports bar because that is where most people do go. It's a lot cheaper than buying the tickets. It's a lot more convenient. Let's say you had to work half the day, but you made it in time for the game, but you obviously can't get to the game. So where we go? Either home or a sports bar. Sports bar is very popular in that setting as well. So like when you get there, if you're thriving off that energy that a stadium typically gives you, a sports bar will give you very similar. The only difference typically is there's going to be a lot of different people rooting for a lot of different teams depending on what games they're playing. So there'll be little pockets to find as well for your team. And then you also have the, back and forth of my team scored, yours didn't, the booing, the cheering, the back and forth, probably some trash talk too. I've a couple times, seen some people get a little heated over a game as well. That happens a lot. And so those are things that you do expect when you go to a bar, but at the same time, you're getting that energy from all the environment around you and all of the people excited or not. And, if your team wins, you get some bragging rights, maybe a free drink.
Yeah. Yeah, like and with that also like, and yes, a lot of sports bars could have like the little mini segments. If you just go like locally here, Miller's Ale House is probably one of the main sports bars you go to on a football Sunday at 1:00, and they'll have up on each TV what game is there, so you can kind of go in like, hey, I want to sit on TV close to this game, so you can kind of pre-watch that. But you can also take it a step further if you want to be around more like-minded fans. So a lot of these you can have fan pages that'll have watch parties announced on there, like, hey, we're going to be at this specific ale house on maybe International Drive for the Buccaneers game and everything, and like all the Buccaneers fans could show up there and be able to watch it from there. So then you have a lot more like-minded fans and everything. But typically, I enjoy kind of, as you mentioned, having a little bit of that trash talk back and forth.
Yeah.
But with it, a sports bar, the affordability definitely is much, much better than going to a game.
Way better.
For the most part, you're not paying for parking.
Yep.
You're traffic getting there to and from, which we didn't even cover really in the stadium game, is a lot of times the traffic gets so jammed up. You're not having an issue usually parking at a sports bar. Yes, the parking lot may fill up, and maybe you have to get there a little early for that, but nowhere near quite the level of getting in and out.
You're not waiting an hour to get in and then 4 hours to get out.
Yeah. Usually there's not a cost to enter. Now, I know a lot of sports bars on maybe the Super Bowl might have like a cost of entry fee, or maybe you have to rent a table. So that one game is like the outlier caveat. A lot of times also if there's like a big boxing match, sometimes they'll charge like a cover to come in and everything.
Right.
But for the most part, most sporting events, most days, that's what sports bars are built for. So they want you to come in. So like the barrier of entry is minimal. Like they don't usually require you to have to buy a certain amount of food or drinks and everything. You can stay pretty much as long as you want to watch the game and everything. Now for me, you in the service industry, we want to keep ordering and drinking because we want to make sure the server, it's worthwhile us being there, especially when you're there holding up a table for that long.
Make it worth it for them.
Yeah, so that's our in the back of our head because of the industry that we're used to on that. But also usually at sports bars, I mean, beers are compared to $20 at a football game, probably more in the $4 to $5 range for the main domestics. Now, sure, you can get some microbrews, imports, and everything that are more expensive, but the main bulk of what is offered at a football stadium would be a quarter of the price of what it would be there.
Oh yeah, I mean a Bud Light at a stadium, like you said, is going to run you $20. A Bud Light at like Miller's or a sports bar is going to run you $4.
Yeah. And then if you also add in the bulk of like pitchers or buckets, usually they do a lot of promos and specials to make it more affordable. The cost of food is a fraction of the cost. Like you can get appetizers and burgers and whatever for usually that $8 to $15 range. Compared to being $8 for a box of candy,
exactly.
At a major sporting event and everything. So, now the only one downfall would be is lack of merchandise options, because usually a sports bar you're not able to buy merchandise from your favorite team and have those things that they can add on and everything. But with the power of the internet, you can also order most of those things.
I was going to say, yeah.
But it also might help your budget too, because I know my kids, when we go to a sporting event, they'll see the foam fingers and the trinkets and whatever, and they want to buy those things, even though dang well they're going to end up in the trash or torn or tossed before they even get home.
I was going to say probably before the game's even over.
Yeah, it's the impulse buy. They see a shiny thing like, ooh, I want to get that. At least at a sports bar, you don't have that. Plus, one great thing with a sports bar, and this is a compare and contrast more with the at-home experience, is most sports bars pay already for every service possible to make sure the games are being shown.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go over that with the home aspect of where there is a little bit of a challenge with that. But sports bars, because it's their business, like
Yeah.
they make sure they have direct TV. They have like Sunday football ticket. They'll have MLB package. They have all the baseball games. They'll have the boxing matches on there. They'll have MLS on Apple TV to get the soccer games. Like they'll have all the sports packages imaginable because their goal is to show those to bring those in. And then with that, the technology of also the experience of watching on TV has grown. The TVs have gotten bigger. The cameras are more showing at the game, so you're getting right up in there, seeing the play. A lot of the streaming services now are even doing like play overlays where you can see what the play is going to be to develop. And there's even a new level, which we don't have here, but I've seen in other parts of the nation of these newer sports bars that are creating these like dome experiences. They're almost like the Sphere in Las Vegas, that big Sphere building. But they're creating where it's a dome on the side and the projection's on there and it's life size. So you go there and they actually have stadium style seating and you can go in there and it's as if you're actually at the game on the sideline.
So it's more of kind of like an IMAX, mini IMAX kind of thing where it kind of wraps around you and just immerses you into it.
Yeah. Now, granted, with that, you have to go to one that's maybe showing the exact game you want to watch. And unfortunately, we don't have one of those in Orlando. I've only seen on video and online the opportunities of these. Usually I've seen more like in Vegas and LA and New York and things. But I'm sure it's a growing brand coming out there. Now, this, unfortunately, I don't know as much about the cost and everything with it because, again, it's newer and not here. But, again, I'm sure it's still a fraction of the cost of going to the game. And with the technology, these projection mappings on the curved wall, like the Sphere, like you can feel like you're pretty much right there life size, right on the sideline. What would cost you probably, $500+ a ticket, you're just getting for maybe a fraction of that with the food and drinks and still experiencing a live event right there, projection on there. So that might be a really fun alternative, even a subcategory from a normal sports bar if they're showing the specific game that you want.
No, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to bring up is if your family wants to do this together, like your whole family's into sports, whatever game you're into or whatever team that everyone wants to watch, you may not always want to take them into that environment of the bar. Like it is definitely going to be crowded and you have everyone drinking and things like that. And that's where possibly doing something at home, if you have a decent setup that you like, that could be definitely a better option.
Well, and even in the sports bar element, you brought up a great point, which I didn't even think about there, is I mentioned about the ease of barrier of entry. There's also ease of barrier of exit. If you have a kid that throws a fit or doesn't want to be there or feels sick or whatever, pay your tab and leave. Like, you can go home. If you're at a sporting event and you've paid that much money, hey, little Timmy,
suck it up.
Suck it up. Throw up in the bucket, whatever the case is. But we're not leaving this because we spent a lot of money. It's like we see this all the time at the theme parks as well. Like, mom and dad spent so much money for us to be here. You're going to enjoy this, dang it. Like, you're going to get through this. And the same thing if you go to a sporting event. Like, you have this image in your head, especially if this is like a once a year, once in a lifetime experience, that you want to be there for the whole thing. And, it doesn't always go that way. Kids get bored. Kids don't like it. Kids get fidgety. Someone doesn't feel good. So, ate a bad shrimp, whatever, had a bad taco, and then, their stomach's upset. But you don't want to leave because you're like thousands of dollars on this. Like, at a sports bar, like, I just pay the tab and I'll go home and finish watching the game or listen to on the radio on the way home, whatever the case is. Like, yes, it's not ideal to leave, but like the barrier of exit is a fraction of what it would be.
So it eliminates that whole feeling of torture for everyone at a certain point, because then you're unhappy that they're unhappy because they're making you unhappy and they're fussy, just all the things just adding up that could happen at the stadium. Like you said, there's no easy get out from that. And you're not even that you want to either. Like you were saying, you spent all that money. And so that is a great point to where you can just pay and go.
So, and then, as we already mentioned, there's also option to not go in the first place, which kind of brings us to the third option, which is staying at home and watching it on TV at home. Now, again, fantastic option, especially with the way technology has come along. If you are a movie fan, you already built out your home theater sound system. You've already a step ahead of the game because you've already got your big screen. You probably got your surround sound. You got that whole setup already going. So that barrier of entry cost is already gone because you've already bought the TV and everything. Now, the biggest issue is currently the battle of the streaming services. So while, yes, you can watch whatever you want on there, you've also got to pay for whatever it is on there. Whether that's through a direct TV or Amazon, Apple TV, MLB, ESPN, whatever each one's on, because especially for NFL, the difference between Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, regular football, whether it's Fox or CBS, NBC.
Right.
You have to have all these different things to be able to watch your season.
Yeah, exactly.
And Apple TV, if you're a soccer fan, you have to have the MLS add-on on top of the cost of Apple TV. So that's an additional cost right there. Baseball has MLB TV. That is, again, an additional cost to go with it. College football and everything, whether your SEC, if you're a Texas Longhorn, have their own channel. Notre Dame has their own channel. Like, there's own things you have to pay for, these add-ons and everything. Those can add up a lot. But the experience now, as we mentioned from the sports bar aspect, is the TV experience is far surpassing what used to be and everything. And so again, the nosebleed of the stadium, nope. These cameras are zoomed right in.
Right there.
Yeah, you can see every drop of sweat on these guys. The camera's zooming in on the play. Amazon came out recently where they overlay what they think the play is going to be before, so you can already, like, if you're just wanting to enjoy without analyzing it too much, you can actually see if it's going to be pass or run, where the route's going,
right?
Who's going to mess up on that, who's going to catch and get the interception, whatever the case is, and the breakdown of that. So the technology of that experience is growing astronomically. So having that at home, again, on a 50 plus inch or 75 inch plus TV and everything, like, way better to me than the nosebleeds at a stadium.
Oh yeah, you can be right there. Also, another thing that they've started doing, at least for major games, that is really cool, is for kids, like they've done a SpongeBob one where it's like those characters are playing the football game, and it is still the same game, but it's more animated with fun overlays and different things like that, and for kids to keep them more entertained too, because let's say you have a low attention span kid and you're all trying to watch the game. If you have another TV off to the side, or you can do a split screen kind of thing, like that's a good option for them too.
No, again, I know Disney's done it, SpongeBob's done it, Nickelodeon, Slime, and everything. Like, you have all these different versions, and it definitely keeps it fun and intriguing for a younger audience that you're trying to slowly edge into enjoying the sport. But also, as you mentioned, with the attention span, also if you're at home, kids can just leave.
That's true.
Hey, leave Dad alone. I'm gonna go to your room and go play and everything, so I can watch this thing. So again, the cost of that is much lower. Plus, going from a food and beverage standpoint, you buy it yourself. It's a lot cheaper buying from the grocery store and everything, setting things up. Plus, you know exactly what it is you like and everything. And you don't have to also feel as elaborate to also have to eat and drink as much, because, especially for us, in the back of our head, we maybe buy a little more food and beverage at a sports bar because we feel like we have to make sure the server is worthwhile.
Correct.
When we're being there, and also tipping the server and everything. Because obviously, especially in our industry, like, that's something that's big in our head. So we go way above the point of, well exceeding the normal, 20%-ish of a tip, because I look at it like, well, I was here for 3 or 4 hours. Also, like, I need to make up for the other tables you didn't get because of us being here and everything. So to me, like, I go way above and beyond in that element of it. Whereas at home, you don't have to.
Exactly.
If you want to tip your spouse for making you a sandwich, sure thing, go at it. But for the most part, like, you can just have a beer and a bag of chips and then just enjoy the game. Yeah. And that cost is much, much lower than even go to a sports bar. So
and if you want to lessen the cost even more, like for big games like the Super Bowl, like we mentioned has just happened, have a watch party at your place. Like, you have a good setup, everyone can come over, watch, they can bring food, they can or chip in for the wings and pizza or whatever you decide to get. Or let's say you had to pay for that streaming service, be like, hey, could everyone chip in $2? There's the fun for the game. So at home, definitely, for the overall experience, and the cost, I think, is kind of where it's at for me. Every once in a while, treat yourself to a game, depending on, what your finances are, without blowing that budget. But, the more I think about it, the more I do enjoy just having my own environment around me to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah, and again, as you mentioned also, with the idea of a watch party, having friends over, you can still then have like-minded friends all rooting for the same thing. Or even just with Super Bowl, like, everyone just want to watch Super Bowl or the halftime show or whatever it is that they want to do in that entertainment. But even I know a lot of times, a lot of people also do it for boxing matches that are like the pay-per-view experience. So like, you're paying for that one-off, and it may be $100, $200 for that fight for the night. But you can have everyone that comes over, like, hey, everyone throw in $10 or $20. Now we've spread the cost out. Or like you said, throw in for the pizza and wings and everything, because then you have the spread. Or people are bringing dishes. So then I maybe made a $20 dish. Everyone else brings over a $20 dish. we have a ton of food for us all to eat now, but I've only
Mm-hmm.
spent $20 on that. So,
No, exactly.
great way to also spread that out. Also, just enjoy your friends and family and company and everything in doing that, because especially if you are rooting for the same team or experience or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that still brings that camaraderie maybe you would gain at a sports bar with the like-minded fans, but at the home experience with having some friends there and everything.
Yeah.
Plus, if they have other kids and everything, it also helps keep the kids entertained. I know that's what we
Mm-hmm.
did for the watch party. We went over to their friend's house that had a couple kids that were around my kids' age, so
Yeah.
they just got to go play and do their own thing, and come back in whenever they wanted to, but they can come and go and not feel like that they had to sit there with mom and dad and be bored
Right.
and everything for 4 hours and everything. So definitely has that element. But now, kind of look at like kind of the breakdown of what we feel of the winners. I know you kind of already hinted yours on that and everything, but I think we'll give a kind of little final battle of it, and then we'll pick our different winner on that. So let's go and get into that.
All right.
So I think, Rana, that we're going to kind of dive into, again, a little bit of what each one has to offer. And then from that, the element when we think that it's worth it, and which one we think is our overall winner. So first off, obviously, is the live in-person experience at the stadiums. I do think it is something that you should do once in your life, at least at some sort of game.
Yeah.
Especially if you have kids, you want to bring them so they can experience what it's like to be at a game, maybe get players' autographs, things, have that once-in-a-lifetime memory. I don't necessarily know if it's a repeatable thing if you want to be with the season ticket aspect, but definitely at least a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Maybe if you're one that's really a fan of one particular sport, traveling around and checking out each of the stadiums for that sport, checking that off of a bucket list while traveling around might be an element of something that's really important to you, of going to different baseball parks, to different football stadiums, things. So you have those experiences to have as your long-term travel memory. But as a normal, regular basis, I definitely struggle with that being the winner in this process. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because the overall cost of it, just combining everything between, like we talked about, the parking, the food, and everything like that, I agree with you. And then the bar is a great option. Like if you want to get out and be social, you're getting out, you're enjoying that environment still of everyone there, the rivalries between people. And like you said, if there's something that did happen, you have that ability to just pay your check and get out of here. However, you are still spending more money, because you're there for 3 or 4 hours. That will add up.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be as much as a stadium, but you are still going to be spending probably $200-$300 throughout that time. I know we do.
Yeah.
By the time the food and the beer is all said and done. So it's one of those that it's good middle ground option. You're not breaking the budget, but you're still enjoying it. But for me, moving to a lesser cost is a little bit better.
Yeah, and also you were bringing up a great point of also a con for both the sports bar and also the stadium is also just to be able to enjoy the friends and family that you're with, because a lot of times you might feel conflicted in the aspect of having conversations with that are outside of the importance of the sport, because it might be distracting to other people around. You're also not taking in what's happening live, but you might upset the people around you that are paying really good money as well to watch this while you're just talking about the weather or whatever else is going on in your life.
Exactly.
So having that element of hey, yes, the game's on, but I don't have to be quite as focused on it, is definitely an element where the home theater kind of comes in again as well, compared to both sports bars and a live stadium. But definitely, if you're looking at trying to save money from the thousands of dollars for going to a game, now we're at the hundreds of dollars for a sports bar. But if you also go there on a regular basis, that adds up as well and everything. Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure that still fits within your budget, because if you're spending $200 a week, every week for a month, I mean, that's $800,000. Yeah. That adds up really fast as well. So now, if you want to just go there, maybe for the big games like playoffs or the Super Bowl or championships things, maybe that makes a little more sense in that area. But definitely adds up much faster than I would like. Which then brings us to, I think, our overall winner, the third option, much like we did with the movie theater. We're back to the home theater now. You may call us, old fuddy-duddies who always wants to be a home buddy or whatever, but at the end of the day, it just makes the most sense. You can customize what you want. You don't have to buy all the different sports packages things. If you only like a certain sport or certain team, you can narrow down to what it is you want to watch. You're also not bound to have to watch it if something else happens. If you go to a different, want to leave the house for whatever reason, kids have an activity to take you to, whatever it is, you can leave. You can also add in the element of camaraderie, bringing friends and family over to watch it together, which also still gives that social element of gaining from that. But also just the comfort of also just being at home and being who you are and what you want to do, at a fraction of the cost of
Yeah.
even a sports bar. Because again, while stadium might be thousands, going to sports bars hundreds, you're looking at probably tens or 20s for on the
Right.
average cost to watch at home. Like, yes, you might have to buy the monthly streaming service or have your cable package, but odds are you at least have the cable package or whatever built in because you have
Right.
other entertainment. Maybe you had the add-on plugins. Like if you were a big soccer fan, you might have to get like the MLS streaming add-on. But again, that's usually $10-ish a month and everything. So again, over the course of a month, that's far less than what you're paying for to go to a sports bar. The beer and the food and everything, you're going to eat that anyway. So again, that's already built into your food budget. Maybe you splurge a little bit on a football game for whatever you're watching. But again, it's still far less than what it would be even at a sports bar. You're not having to tip as well.
Yeah.
You're not having to feel guilty for being there for the amount of time and everything of having to tip extra and everything for that. And as you mentioned before about if your friends or family coming over, you can spread that cost out even more and make it much more cost effective. On top of the fact you can get as big of a television as you want to watch it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And for the streaming services too, there's no contracts to those anymore at all from the ones I see. So you can just do it for that month and then just let it go. Or for just the season, you can pay for that. It's not something you're locked in year round. So that definitely helps the cost of that too.
Yeah, like again, like certain things like direct, the Sunday NFL ticket you had to buy for the whole ticket or half season they do I think as well. But like you said, like you can also bake that into your annual budget and everything. And then all these other regular streaming services, whether it's just your normal, your Fox, your Hulu, CBS, things like that.
Right.
Yeah, you could add on and drop as you want. Pay for only that season, dropping it right afterwards. So there's definitely ways around to make it even more affordable.
Yeah.
But again, like you can pick and choose based on what it is you want to watch and fit it into your lifestyle and your what works for you and everything.
Yeah.
Because especially like a lot of football, generally speaking, is going to be Monday Night Football, Sunday all day and everything. College football is all day, Saturday. But like there are other sports like basketball, baseball, and things that are almost every other day, and it's hard to fit that all in and everything. So you might not want to get a ticket and everything for that for the whole season because maybe it doesn't fit into what days you can actually watch the things. That also goes into the aspect of if you buy a season ticket, I know my buddy has season tickets for the Magic years ago, and he found himself really pressed to go to a Thursday night game after work and everything. So sometimes those tickets just end up getting lost, and that's a wasted cost. Same thing goes if you buy the whole season of a certain package and you can't watch them. So maybe also fine tuning exactly where it is that fits you for those games actually works out as well. But I think at the end of the day, definitely the home theater experience, I think is our big winner.
Yeah.
And then with that, like, if you agree or disagree, please, let us know, put it in the comments, tell us what you spent at a sporting game, sporting event, because like we threw out some numbers, but I'm sure some of you spent even way more. I mean,
oh yeah,
I'm sure we've all seen the TikTok videos of the amazing spreads you can get. Especially, I know like the Raiders stadium in Vegas can do some really amazing spreads in their VIP private rooms and things of like it's like a version of a nightclub with bottle service and crazy spreads that are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But like tell us, did you think it was worth it? Do you think you got overpriced for that? Did you get the value for that? If you agree with the home theater aspect, tell us how your system's set up and everything, what it is you pay for the watch at home. Because again, we're all trying to figure this out. Like this is our opinion that the home theater system wins. But if you agree or disagree, we're willing to discuss that and everything.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's our way or the highway. Like this is just based off what we're looking at the dollars and cents of what probably most budgets are at. I don't feel the live experience or even sometimes the bar experience fits most people's budgets. If you're in a tax bracket much higher, the 1%ers, even the 10%ers, like sure thing, maybe that fits in more. But for the average middle class family and everything, this is the home theater experience really is the only way to go.
Yeah, especially if you're already building up that home theater system and you're already setting it up and you've already got that because that's a goal and it's already worked into your budget. It's definitely the best cost effective as well. Yeah, for sure. And for us, the overall experience versus cost, and we're not saying we don't also want to go to a game every once in a while. Like you said, everyone should do it at least once because there's nothing quite like going to a sporting event like that. Yeah. It is just energetic. It's a lot of fun to do and experience, but it doesn't have to be every single time. But like you said, put in the comments, how much have you spent on games or season passes and things like that? Excluding the Super Bowl, maybe, because we all know that starts at like $5,000 a ticket, and that's the amount of money they make off of that. Yeah, that one game a year. Yeah, it's beyond me.
Yeah, it's insane. That's for sure.
But tell us your value versus cost and what you think is worth it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, because that also helps us too.
Yeah. And until next time, keep building with us and everything. We're going to get to our financial goals together. And next, we're going to kind of dive in again of what we're looking at with our investment tracking at this point. We did last month with our 6 different theories.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to talk about how they're doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's some pretty shocking results already from even just 3 months in.
I was going to say, when you showed me where we were at, I was like, oh,
yep.
Well, that's going to upset a few things.
Big changes. So stay tuned to see what it looks like, and we'll go from there.
All right, till next time.